state. I think we're safe for another year with state funding and it's stable. Actually, it's kind of like Cold Harvest. We're going to get the same state aid we had last year, plus I think another $100,000, $40,000.
$5.61.
So we're going to get, and it actually would have gone down because our EAV is going up and our enrollment's going down. It should have been going down, possibly as much as $400,000 to $500,000. Instead, it's actually going to stay the same and go up. So I think we're heading for a turnaround financially and start running deficits, and we'll be showing a lot of those details in both August and September.
And I think it's important to mention too, with the state budget, when it came out, we got around $5.61. And if you look around at some of the other districts in the area, Thornwood, Thornton Ridge got $441, I do believe the number is, per student. And then you look all the way up north to like a New Trier high school district, obviously spent a lot more per student. They got $12.50 per student. And how those numbers worked and how they worked down in Springfield, your guess is as good as mine, but I suppose we're all grateful that numbers, no one lost money, which is good. But obviously, whenever other schools get, I think I saw one school district got $1,400 per student additional, which is just astronomical. I don't know how they get those numbers. They just work the numbers however they want to work the numbers.
No, I was just going to ask, you went over the expenditure side. On the revenue side, did we receive all of the payments from the state in 16 plus? It looks like we were over the budget amount by under 5 or 6%. So was that all of fiscal 16 and the final payment that was from 15 that got paid in 16?
Well, no, general state aid, we budgeted less than what they were saying that we were going to get in general state aid in September, thinking that possibly it was a conservative approach to it, thinking because they shaved mid-year, they shaved general state aid, so they, when the budget was developed last year, it was very conservative in general state aid. And I think it's almost all pretty much more general state aid than we were budgeted for, and that was in there. As far as getting, so we only received the one payment that rolled over plus 3 more. And I checked a couple of days ago. A lot of times they start, then that fourth payment comes July 2nd or July 3rd. And I checked a couple of days ago, and it still wasn't processed by the comptroller. I don't know if it's right now real quick, but it still hasn't processed. And that alludes to, the comptroller said, I think at the last board meeting, I said there was $7.5 billion outstanding in bills. And the comptroller just recently did a press release. It looks like because of the stopgap budget, she's predicting it's going to go to $10 billion in outstanding. So where that fourth payment is going to come, it's going to be discussed. When we're finally get the final closeout from the payments from last year. But we'll budget again for 4 payments. Even though we could get 3, we could get 5, 4. But we'll budget for 4.
All right, moving on. Director of Finance report. Kelly, welcome.
Thank you. Just wanted to take a minute to introduce myself. For those who don't know me, I worked at Deloitte Touche downtown for almost 9 years, and primarily the real estate group and not-for-profit groups. My last 2 years there, I was a senior manager on the City of Chicago Department of Aviation, so auditing O'Hare and Midway airports. That was fun. So I got some significant experience in governmental accounting. Also, obviously, when you're an auditor, you get significant experience in internal control structures, financial reporting, and financial analysis. Decided to leave Deloitte because I did not want to be an audit partner selling audit work. This wasn't an interest of mine. I was more interested in doing versus the actual selling. And I was commuting probably more than 2 hours a day, so I wanted to be closer to home. So the opportunity came up for me to work at District 230 in Orland, Sandberg, Stagg, and Andrew. As Director of Finance with Steve for 5 years. And then this past year with our new assistant superintendent there. And, you know, this opportunity came up here, and I couldn't pass it up because I'm a community member. I have 3 young boys. We moved to this district to send our boys to these schools, so I'm very vested in the success of this district and very vested in seeing it head in the right direction. So I'm looking forward to the opportunity to work with Steve again and do what I can to help the district. So as far as what I've been doing, I've been here for about 2 weeks now, a little more than 2 weeks now, and it's been a whirlwind. We are in the process of converting Skyward. As of July 1st, we started using the Skyward software system. On the financial reporting side, I'm very familiar with that because we used it at District 230. So I've been helping with the configuration and training of our staff on that software. I've also been sitting with just various people in the business department and just various people across the district, just trying to gain an understanding of what they do, what the current processes are that are in place, and areas where we can improve. I'm assisting Steve with the budgeting process, which is another area that I worked on at District 230. And so yeah, I'm just doing a lot of everything right now. So, but it's been good. It's been really good. And going on to the next agenda topic. If we
Right,
don't-
that's what she was going to say.
Our audit partner, Dave Meyer, wanted to be here tonight, but unfortunately had a previous commitment with another school district presenting financials at their board meeting, so could not be here. But he is penciled in for our meeting dates over the next couple of months to be able to, attend and answer questions and speak to what the process is. I will tell you that they are scheduled to be here the week of August 22nd for at least 1 week, probably 2. They'll be reviewing everything as of June 30th. And they have full expectation that they should still be able, with that audit timing, still be able to submit the AFR to the state by the October 15th deadline. It's my understanding that there was an internal control review that the board wanted to have done. Our auditors, as part of their year-end audit procedures, do obtain an understanding of internal controls as of a specific point in time, so it would be as of the 6/30 year-end. Speaking with them, they recommend moving forward with that internal controls review, but recommended the timing being more in the fall timeframe for that, once we're fully transitioned to our new accounting software, our new processes and procedures, because really, if they were to do something at this point in time, I don't think it would provide a lot of value to the district as far as internal control recommendations, because they would be reporting on something that was in place as of 6/30 that wouldn't, a lot of the things are going to be changing going forward.
Just to clarify there, so the internal controls is going to be, a lot of it is going to be surrounded around Rialco and or Skyward. And those controls being about how we handle money, how we, all the different controls.
And individuals as well.
Correct, and the different people, and if we were to do that internal control as of the 30th, it would be based upon what was in place on the 30th, and now we actually have a new computer system, we have new personnel, and we have new controls. They're already in place, and it doesn't make much sense to do one person do it.
Correct.
I agree with the timing of that. I would love to see that review turn into an annual thing, more of an internal audit type function where, they look at controls one year, they come back the next year, review what was done.
Absolutely. And especially, new software, new personnel, this is going to be a big year of
And then
change.
focus on, you can't expect them to just take everything in 1 year, purchasing 1 year, come back the next, look at payroll, review what was done, purchasing, kind of, just really make it into an internal function. Obviously, we can't have our own internal auditors just do the size, but I think we could certainly contract that out.
But I think that's where this committee is really going to become very useful too. So now, Kelly and Steve and Rich do their job.
want to in the organization?
I'll go ahead and answer. We are working right now on our organizational chart. And as we develop that organizational chart and bring it back to the board, it's going to be it's a working document right now, but we need to have something in place in the next 3 months that shows the, I guess, chain of command, for lack of a better term. The one we have in place right now is not accurately depict where we are right now. At this time, with Rich and Steve both sharing those components, we're working on that organizational chart for the entire business operation. And I think that's something that this group has brought up as well in terms of, our organizational chart. So right now, that's what we're working on in terms of communication. We're all communicating together right now as we work through the transition into the personnel in Skyward and continue to work through that and bring forth an organizational chart to the board.
Is the assistant superintendent position still out there, or being filled, or what is the status?
Well, not this year, not this year. We're gonna go with our interim. We posted the position, we interviewed for the position. The director of finance at the time was to me a priority for us to find that person who has the accounting experience, and that's the direction we went in. And we'll repost in probably the late winter, early spring, and see if we have if any full-time applicants are out there.
Yeah, just curious, I hadn't heard anything. I agree, that we're definitely making progress. Kelly, as you talk to the auditors, do they have the AUP that quoted in front of them? Do they know the details of everything that's going on in the district?
Yes, absolutely.
Does that affect their testing or their testing plan?
I haven't asked them that specifically. I will find out. I'm sure it has. I know that they've already sat with the previous auditors as well, obtained their work papers. I mean, if you have to do that when you're taking on a new client.
Yes, I would expect a considerably more work during this audit than maybe a normal audit, new auditors, and everything that's going on, so I feel for you.
All right, moving on, number 6, other matters. Easement at 191st and Park. Back in materials, you should find, this was discussed at our last meeting, was a landowner adjacent to our property at 191st is looking into putting a haul road in.
Well, it's the corner of 191st and Park, and the developer would like to run an easement along Harlem, basically for land haul dumping purposes. Right now, the proposal is $2,500 for a year. We've gone back and asked for a 6-month time frame window. They said they could do that with the stipulation of weather permitting, they would be able to complete it during that time. But this is something that the board discussed. Couldn't really gain a consensus, so in talking with Chris, we thought we would bring it to this committee for some thoughts and considerations. Chris, go ahead and fill in.
I mean, yeah, so, and I can tell you that the piece that got me on this, and I talked about this during the open session last meeting, was the fact that the individual who was actually putting this through, as the president, is the owner who we actually had a contract with before for 191st, and actually drew the contract out for a number of years. I want to say that contract was in the neighborhood of about $14 million. He was our first bidder on the property. He was going to buy our property because he has the corner and we have the L-shaped piece around him. And he tried to buy it and eventually, as much as we tried to get that contract executed, it never happened. We went out to other buyers and other contracts for a number of years, and as I stated publicly a number of times, that property has been for sale or under contract more than it has been not under contract since in the last 10 years. So my feeling is I am very leery about signing a contract for as little as $200, or even if we go 6 months, $400 a month to have a haul road that may, A, decrease our ability to be able to sell the property, or B, trigger some loophole, with a right-of-way that we have to give him permission going forward, decreasing our property value because he now has permission to egress or enter his property through ours. And I just wanted your thoughts.
Nobody's building on that.
We do not know, we just know
It'd
that.
be a strip mall is the plan, Mike, so, your typical one level strip mall is what we control.
But I mean, just looking at the piece that he has, he's going to have, I think he can get in, from my understanding, he can get in off of Harlem, about 191st, because the turn lane there is going to be just about completely blocked for him. He's not going to be able to get a curb cut from IDOT, from my understanding, but I'm not a real estate guy.
So if we don't give it to them,
If we don't give it to him, I mean, the only positive is I think, Mike, you're alluding to, is he improves his property, it does help our value. And I don't disagree with that. My problem is we've got somebody who, in my opinion, has already cost us millions.
From my standpoint, I mean, if we are going through the appraisal process, marking these, the years seem like a long time to give them, but I think with 6 months, I think to see development start there, I think it would enhance our property, and I think, working with developers, I think it's a pretty small community, so I think, this doesn't impact the current leasing, the farmer. So, I mean, I think what I was really hoping for, at least from my perspective, was to get it down to 6 months.
It's $400 a month, a
And
reasonable
an
price.
attorney looked at this to see whether or not we give them the easement, that we would have an issue, like Chris, you brought up, that we might end up not being able to take the easy away, take the road away because he's using it.
That would be something that would likely have to go through the village. So, I mean, there'd be a number of different steps between IDOT and villages before anything like that were to happen. They couldn't just make a request, they would have to go through the process. And like I said, I know one of the concerns with that property, that corner, was the ability of any left in off Harlem, obviously you couldn't do. Any left off 191st you couldn't do. If you look to the map, to the far south is essentially, you can see where our road is kind of drawn in there, and that would be a potential stoplight to access the entire property.
Where is that?
So this would be the southeast corner, where it's, you can kind of see the road already down here.
I mean, the only other option is we're going to have we say no, as Mr. Haynes and his group here come forward and say, we'd like to buy the property again, actually take it off of our rolls. I don't know. It's kind of a catch-22. Any other thoughts? I mean, this is, I think you're right where the board was on this, we're all kind of,
Mine is, I think, in building, if you have a outlet, some type of building there, I think that becomes a little more favorable for somebody else to buy. Because right now, I know there's problems with drainage in that whole area, but once you have one building there, I think it becomes a little more favorable for people to buy that lot. And so I think the more building you can get, the better for that lot, the more value that lot.
looking at that, obviously, I think, and I'm going to agree with Chris, and the rest of the board would have to weigh in, but 6 months versus a year, I think 6 months is more reasonable with an opportunity if they needed to come back to us for an extension. But the question is $400 a month, reasonable? I think that's kind of low.
what can they do? I mean, could they leave a pile of dirt or?
Well, no, they would have in the provision in here, they would be,
Yeah.
responsible for returning it back to where it was.
But, so let's say they don't, I mean, what can we do? I mean, put a deposit down or something of that nature? I do like the idea of a 6-month lease, maybe 1 month renewals, you know, if you don't have a contract on it, sure, take another month, take another month. But if we do, then we have to wait out.
Where did the 6,500 come up from?
That was just a dark wall. I mean, there's no, I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to that, to my knowledge. This was just a number they threw out. But I mean, if you just do the quick math of dividing by 24, you know, it's 200, you know.
Can they do this as a village approved, such a, it to happen? I mean, are we even talking about something that can actually happen?
I
In
assume,
terms of them taking it,
Yeah, and being able to, is it like a special use thing? Do they need to do something like that? I mean, I don't know.
I've done my share, a fair share of easements in my day. The only ones that can force an easement on you are like ComEd. And utility companies can enforce an easement on you.
right, but that's, I mean, the only
Private, I've never known to.
we have seen, I have seen them in New Lenox happen where, you know, you do have two parcels that are next to each other, and that's the one I'm concerned about here. We have egress and entrance, you know, out of a parcel. If there's new rules in most of the municipalities in our area where, you know, they don't want the traffic along the main thoroughfare, they want to be able to drive behind the Chili's to get to the Target, you know, so that they're all connected to try and keep people from making dangerous left turns.
Wouldn't they already have a plan in place with the village, which is gonna show where the access point before they start building a hall road?
Yeah, so is this the first step in the process, and now they gotta go,
I think
Right,
so.
I mean,
so it could be years potentially.
Yeah.
Before they're ready to go.
I mean, maybe the recommendation is we go back to them and ask them, you know, what their plan for entrance and, entrance and egress from that lot is.
I would think we would need to know, okay, if we're concerned about $2,500 being the amount, what is the market for granting a temporary easement? And that would be, I think, what we have to figure out. And if it's within market, I would think if they're at the point where they're coming to us for a temporary easement, they've already had these plans with the village. I think there was a sign up to do
They did the
public
test.
hearing,
And
they did the soil.
yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this has progressed to the point where, that they have to have some way to access this property once it's built. So I mean, I think if the issue is the amount, I think it's just figuring out, okay, what's market for an easement?
Let's market it, where's their interest in egress?
Does seem like it would work more.
Anything else?
Do they have a timeline of when they want to start construction?
they, yeah, I think they're ready. Yeah, they're ready.
There's also, more buildings also equates to more property tax, which ultimately helps
This is
us
true.
as well.
This is true. I do agree with you completely there.
Well, unless their taxes have been paid.
They have not. They have not. Have not. All right. On-site daycare.
Topic, obviously, I've been in discussions with the board, I've also been in discussions with the individual. And in terms of fighting hard for Aunt Nancy, that's simply not the case. We're in a situation where when we begin the discussions for development of an RFP and we went to DCFS, it's a 6-month time limit. We did not have the 6 months in order to ensure that we would be able to go to a competitive bid process and have somebody ready and in place for the fall of 2016. So, there are a couple of different options. You know, we can do nothing, stay with the agreement that's in place, we can begin to negotiate with AT&T, which we're currently doing, or the district could opt out on the 90-day and have no childcare for next fall. Well, if we did that, or if the board decided to do that, that puts some teachers in a tough spot. I don't, but that's certainly a decision that, you know, at any time we can do to opt out. In terms of the negotiations, we're working on a remittance right now. I also know, in going through these negotiations, that the best way to do these things is in a competitive bid structure. No question. Now, at this time, in talking with Steve and Rich, and Rich has done this before at Joliet, September would be a time for us to begin to talk about, if the board wishes this group to discuss, do we want to have on-site childcare, daycare? If we do, what would be the priorities of an RFP? Is it going to be based upon revenue? Is it going to be based upon price setting? There are a number of different ways that this could work moving forward. If we began that in September, we develop the RFP, we go to bid in October, we need to finalize, or have probably November, so that the board can approve a company in December, so they can begin the process with someone else, with DCFS, to be able to provide childcare for the fall of 2017. So in terms of where we are now, the board is going to have to make a determination on what is enough, or to walk away. And then I'm hoping, I would think the board would give directive to this group to work on an RFP to move it forward. If the board wants us to discuss the current agreement, I would look for direction from the board to say, well, let's find out what the negotiation would be. That becomes a little bit more difficult as we have 5 weeks until the school year starts. And we do have, I think there are nearly 140 children are scheduled to start there in August. So, we are where we are. We've identified that we need to do a little bit better. And we need to set a time frame in order to fix this moving forward. And in the meantime, the board will have some options, hopefully Thursday evening, in terms of what decisions and where to go for this coming school year. Anything, Chris or Craig?
Well, I mean, I think it comes down to whether the board wants to go with a benefit model for the daycare or a profit model for the daycare. If it's a benefit to our teachers, obviously that helps us retain better teachers who maybe would be taking more time off. We've heard those things about added value, and it does set Lakeway apart in getting some teachers who may be on the cusp of coming here or going to another district. It's a real added a real benefit to our school in that respect. In a profit model, obviously it's added income, which we desperately need. And you'll find people on both sides, and that's why this is such a hot button topic. I think that's something that the board really has to nail down on where we want this to be. I want to hear your opinions.
I think, most people I talk to are generally for having them here. They don't really have a problem with them. The issue is that they should pay rent.
Yep.
We don't need to make a fortune off of them, but if they were across the street in a building, maybe paying rent there,
Yep.
we should get at least that much rent.
Well, and I think the original thought, way back when I wasn't on the board, this is done way before, was the fact that we were bringing them in at, giving them a place to have it, and our teachers were getting a discounted rate, and it was like a benefit. There was something that, we have for our teachers to be able to bring them in and not charge them as much because they're a teacher and have that on site, so their kids were here so they could coach and they could do these things. We've heard these stories from a number of these teachers.
As a teacher, I've talked to a lot of people that are at daycare, it's really not that much cheaper.
That's the problem that I see as a board member.
As a teacher,
It is less, though, it is less than the area average.
No, it's not.
It is less than the area
How's that?
average. It is less than the area average. It's not significant, but it is less. Go ahead.
I just want to highlight one thing. Local area daycares require usually a 12-month registration. So for a teacher who only works 10 months, obviously they're not going to send their child to daycare over the summer. With local daycares, if you want to keep your spot for the upcoming fall when the person goes back to work, you either have to keep your child in daycare or you have to pay a certain amount to keep your child in daycare over the summer months. that's the benefit of Aunt Nancy's, is that they basically run a 10-month daycare. Their full-time daycare is a 10-month daycare, and the users are not required to pay over the summer.
I'm not sure that this is still the case, but when my three boys went to Bobby Union, they did only run, Bobby Union and Rutherford, they did only run about a 9 to 10 month year, because the summer was considered summer camp, and you did not lose your spot if you were not part of summer camp. I'm not, I mean, my boys are teenagers, I'm not sure that that's the way it works now, but I do know that it was something that worked for other individuals.
And I'm sure there's different
So there's got to be different.
Right. And I think that's, we have to weigh all those things.
I think it's a benefit to all teachers, but it's not a benefit to every teacher.
Correct.
So when I'm looking at it this way, I don't see, like, I don't have any children in daycare. So I also look at that we just rent teachers. And I look at the saving, the money that we could have gotten on rent to give a benefit to teachers who now lost jobs. I try to weigh that in my mind, and I'm telling you, the profit motive to me as a teacher seems more important, because then we can retain our teachers. And you brought up about whether or not this is a benefit to get teachers to come here. Well, we're probably not going to be hiring. And we don't have the ability to hire because so what we shouldn't be worried about, getting these teachers to come here. And if we have a teacher that's here and we've lost daycare, seriously, there's not any jobs out there. So we're not going to lose a teacher because we lost the benefit, unless they can afford to stay home.
But that's a
So,
fundamental
I mean,
change
I
that
just-
we've come through.
I understand that, and I'm coming from the viewpoint as a teacher. When I started here, I couldn't afford the daycare.
Okay.
So, I mean, so it might be a great benefit, but if you can't afford it, you can't use it.
Yeah.
And all the teachers should have a benefit, and we're not getting it. So we have to look at it from that, I'm saying I would look at it from that viewpoint. I'm not saying we have to do anything. You
No,
decide what you
but
want to
that's
do.
why I want to hear your
Right,
opinion.
you have to decide what you want to
Right.
do.
So you said benefit versus profit, I think there should be a happy medium.
There's a happy medium, and that's what I was.
And I think when you start looking at, I know you can't do this thing paper say, but I think it was Oakland that had it, or Richards that had it. At Oakland, I think it was $70,000 they asked for rent for the year. I think those are probably things that we got to start looking at, because they're the other one that's offering that one. $70,000 for the rent, for the electricity, for that, for the, what's it called, maintenance on the park, grounds, also for cleaning out the snow removal. 7,000 is not an unreasonable amount of money, especially when you look at per square footage of the area and stuff like that.
I mean, I'm definitely in the remittance camp, and there has to be some sort of remittance. I think there will be some sort of remittance. Whether, everyone's in agreement on what that amount is, but it's a tough balancing act, because they're in existence. It's trying to figure out the market rate. They're not, there's rent, utilities that they're not paying. They don't have to advertise for the most part. So these are all expenses that they're not having to incur. They also think, as we are doing this, trying to charge a remittance, get some money back from them, I also don't want them to then just, pass all those costs on to the teacher. Because they're a for-profit
Yeah, but
business,
they can't
right?
do that one, because I guess, isn't there a set fee that they can't increase by a certain amount?
It's 20% less than what they charge, Mike, so we're working on the language of that to set.
But then,
set
but then you
price
can't go above
points.
that 20%, isn't it?
Yeah, but remember, it's 20% of what, it's not 20% of the area average, it's 20% less than what they charge. So we're working on the language of that right now.
But, I mean, they can't just charge whatever, because people are not going to.
Absolutely.
So, that will really show us how valuable that benefit is to teachers. And when we're talking about benefit to teachers, we're talking about two different things, right? We're talking about subsidizing through that 20% reduced rate, and we're also talking about the benefit of just simply having daycare here, convenience.
And I think-
And I support convenience, subsidizing. I don't think you can do that when it's not going for all teachers.
I think that's a discussion we're going to have here this fall, is we're going to have the discussion, the benefit and profit, and I think, Mike, you're right, we're going to end up somewhere in the middle, that's my own opinion. But that's something we have to talk about, but obviously, right now, we have to look at, what we're going to do with the advances, in the immediate. And
Can I ask a
what those
question
dollars,
about
what those dollar amounts are going to be, and where we're gonna end up with Aunt Nancy's today, because there's that 6-month lead time for the DCFS and the licensing, and because it is something that we already give and have the children already signed up to be in that daycare at the beginning, and there's some concerns that, in the letter, some of them that come back and forth that, Aunt Nancy's, trying to run their business, knowing that they're gonna get charged.
I just had a question. As Aunt Nancy is a business owner, she knows that this has been in the news. It's been in the news and everybody's talking about it. If we give her 90-day notice that we're going to start charging her, do you really think she can pull out?
No.
I mean, she has to be able to retire or something. I can't imagine a business owner being able to give up 3 locations, charging what she does. I mean, this is a lot of money she'd be giving up. I mean, I would weigh that, to me, that was something that should be weighed. Who could walk away from what she has? There's not too many business people out there that walk away. So why can't we at this point negotiate with her, give her 90 days, and say, we're going to start charging you something? Now, I don't know what would be a fair price at this point. I do think that because we are going to send it out and we'll do the RFPs, that's great, we should do that. But I don't think that at this point in the financial condition the district is in, that we can let her go another year without charging
Who is responsible for maintenance and upkeep of the playground equipment and all that, the stuff that Aunt Nancy's daycare provides?
The outside is ours. The outside,
Okay,
and
but
they
it's
and they need the fixed, and they need the fixed, so counters are ours, and they need the fixed. And the cribs and everything else is theirs.
So what about the playground equipment, ours?
Playground equipment belongs to us.
That just doesn't seem very right to me that we provide Aunt Nancy's daycare as a for-profit business. The opportunity to be in our schools, and we have to also maintain the equipment, the playground equipment that really Aunt Nancy's benefits, our children obviously benefit from, but ultimately the profit motive is with Aunt Nancy. I just, as a mom, as a taxpayer, as a person, I just don't think that Aunt Nancy should think that that's without paying any rent. That just is not.
And I don't think you're gonna get any money on that going forward from this board, period. I don't think
From
it-
the owner of Aunt Nancy's, I mean, even she, you just can't sit here and say, well, yeah, whatever, that's my contract. That's just not feasible.
And they have, and we've been working with them.
So going back to Steve's comments earlier, have all of those issues been resolved?
Yes, I went through a number of the issues with the owners earlier this week, and the remedies have been put in place. And the ones that we were able to do, our maintenance guys took care of, but the majority of them were items that they had to correct.
So they also, I mean, just to get everything I've heard out there, they get food from the cafeteria for the kids, that we charge.
We charge them.
They charge, they use swimming pools, they basically, have full access to facilities.
Yes, at times that we don't, if at times we don't, they do have swim days. I don't know, Monica, you can, Sharon, you can help me out on that with the buildings. Are they still using the pools, or is that something
Thursdays.
that, Thursdays?
And I
Yeah.
believe
like an
the
hour.
chil- I believe the parents get charged for that actually, because my children attended the summer camp here at Aunt Nancy's, actually here in Central, and I believe that there's an extra charge for that, for everything.
Buying it, it's.
Correct, yeah, I guess.
We build sharks and we build master swim teams and all that, but we don't charge.
That has to be correct. That's true.
And I know I've said this before, and I
That's still a
don't
benefit.
talk to legal and whatnot, but I looked at the Will County property tax code again, and my interpretation of it is that a for-profit business operating on school grounds shouldn't pay property tax. My gut feeling is that we should take a second look at that.
We get a second opinion, because I've discussed it with our attorneys at length, and they have copies of the contract, they have copies of proposed amendments to the upcoming year, and we still feel that it's
Even to
It's a
profit.
remittance
is the
and
way
benefit.
Yeah.
As a
Even to
benefit.
profit, so, and as he's charging rates, he's making profit.
yeah.
That'd be a profit.
I think we're gonna have to come back to this group moving forward. It's gonna be incumbent upon the school board to decide what direction for next year. But I think this group, I think certainly we need to bring the discussion back in September, when we start to develop the RFP to get everybody's opinion.
Too slow.
And once again,
Yes.
that's for
Another month
next
goes by.
year. We have something in place for the current year, but we're still adjusting that, and we're going to get board approval for the current school year. And then we need to get something in place moving forward, long-term, for the success of this program.
Do the 90
Depending
days.
upon when it goes.
Giving them more
So
time
the
to
current
do our
school
picks.
year, you're just amending the contract? or-
We're looking to amend the contract and add a dollar figure
We need
onto it.
Yes, to receive some remittance
Yes.
And
$10,000.
Is that only amendments that you're considering?
for enhances.
But to that contract, just regarding remittances, or is there anything else that you're?
There's other structures that we're working through with the combination.
And then obviously coming to an RFP, so that Nancy's would have to come through competitive. If they wanted to stay, they would have to be competitive with whoever else would like to bid on that RFP that we will be bringing for you guys to help develop.
Do they have the ability to review that contract once we close?
This is gonna go to the board because of the timing of everything with 5 weeks left. This is something that we need to, it would be best to have in place and ready for the board for approval Thursday.
All right, moving on, Open Meetings Act training.
Pretty good. We just need a couple more to complete if we have time to do so, and get that to Sue, but we're in good shape there.
Yeah, so if you haven't completed that, please get that done. It's pretty easy online. And anyone else has anything else for the good of the committee?
Just jumping back to land
Uh-huh.
appraisals, land purchases.
Yeah.
I know we're far off from selling them still, but, I mean, what is the thinking, say we do sell them? What is the plan for cash?
I think that's correct. Personally, I think we need to sell it, knowing the length of time it would take to sell a property of that nature. Even if we had somebody who wanted to buy it right now, I mean, you're still 90, 120, 6 months off realistic.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Where's it gonna go?
Oh, I think that, I'm pretty sure, I've told that in the past, for school districts, that I'm pretty sure it has to go into the education.
Okay, has to go to the education fund, but it can, I mean, you said we get $6 million, obviously spend that in 1 year, but we're gonna talk about what to do with that over the next
It would
5
be
years.
used to build back reserves and reduce the tax allocation.
I mean, that's the biggest thing. I mean, don't look at the finance from my perspective.
Yeah.
And Chris, I don't think you'll disagree with me. Stop loaning money and stop the bleeding, and let's do that.
And the only other thing, we hear in the news, there's an SEC investigation, we hear the FBI is talking, and you guys can talk extensively about it, but always comment, are those things still ongoing?
We're cooperating to the fullest extent that we can.
If they are ongoing, so.
They won't tell us when they stop.
Okay.
We won't get a letter that says,
Good.
you're done, just as long as they continue to ask for things, we provide it, and we'll continue to work.
All right. With that, motion to adjourn. I got Denise. Second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries.